Right, now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going, close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Welcome back to the Pick and Go podcast, your one-stop shop for all things rugby union and in particular Super Rugby. And we are getting towards the business end of the season, as they say. Unfortunately today, Piri Wipu couldn't make it. He may be a wee bit late. He may not turn up at all. We'll just have to wait and see. Not really sure. Hopefully we'll get a wee bit of an explanation out of him either later in the podcast or next week. But we do have two of our very good friends available up north, and we'll head to just across the bridge where our good friend Ben Searle of Surly Talk Sports is mostly situated. Ben, welcome back in.
How are we, lads? Yeah, pity. The mystery continues, right? I heard rumours he was out there door knocking. So if you've had a knock on your door from Piri Wipu today, then hopefully you offered him at least a cup of tea. Hopefully he was in his gummies. Apparently the game on the weekend for his beloved Wellington College went so poorly that he's taken recruitment into his own hands and he's just scouting houses in the local area to see if he can find any players.
I can neither confirm nor deny if that rumour is true, but what I can do is also head, probably not too far away from you, Surly, where we will find our good friend Jeff Wilson.
Hey lads, I'm back in the library. This is, just doing my reading in preparation for what's a massive week. I'm disappointed I don't get to see Piri again, but I'm not surprised.
Well, why don't we move on to our first question for today? And it's sort of were you surprised or weren't you? What was more outrageous from last weekend? Was it the fact that Fehi Fineanganofo failed to score a try against Moana Pasifika, or the fact that Josh Morby scored 4 tries against Moana Pasifika? Surly, what's your take on it?
Probably Fehi. I thought Josh Morby's 4 tries were really good too. A lot of them weren't easy tries that he just was on the receiving end, standing out wider. And I think he's a great footballer too. But yeah, I thought Fehi was going to break the record on the weekend. I think I said it on the pod last week, didn't I? I said it was more likely that he would than he wouldn't. Yeah, it was Morby's day.
Jeff, for you, Fehi not, or Forby going forfeit?
I think the interesting part about this for me is that sometimes when you're chasing something, it can get further away. And so when you know it's right there, it doesn't come as quickly as you would hope. And then all of a sudden you miss what you think will be a prime opportunity. And Fehi will be looking at going, I'm probably not going to get much of a better chance to get a multi-try game than playing against Moana. And sometimes, though, the ball just goes the other way. I've played on the wing, obviously a lot, and you start looking across the other side and going, why is it not going my way today? And I've spent games chasing it, and it just keeps going away from you, Or the rest of the team are just pranking you. And you're getting a bit big for your boots, and guess what? You're not getting the nut today. And now Josh Morby, he's in the conversation. What's he on, 12 or 13 now? I think as well. He's got a high number. He's getting up there. So this is a reward for the way the Hurricanes play, and it was Morby's turn.
Right, yeah. So Jeff coming out with the conspiracy theory that the Canes refused to pass the ball out on Fehi's wing.
Did I say that? Don't put words in my mouth, Paulie. I just said sometimes, sometimes. I'm not saying that happened. It's possible.
Surely, is this like when a batsman is on 99 and he's been seeing the ball all day, and then all of a sudden he just starts to tighten up slightly. He's not playing the ball as he was for the last half an hour or so, and he struggles to put the ball away.
Yeah, not a feeling I've ever had. I batted 11, didn't bowl, so that shows my cricketing prowess. I was just happy to get into double digits. But yeah, like Jeff said, sometimes the harder you chase things, the further away they can seem. And he's got a few big games coming up where I'm sure he would love to break that record, because it would probably mean a little bit more potentially to say that you broke it against some of the top teams in the competition, but I'm still backing him to get the job done. It is a credit, though, to how nicely the Hurricanes move the ball in their outside back stocks, because on any given day, any one of their outsides, Kenny Naholo included, could end up with a hat trick. So it's crazy to watch.
And that's an interesting conversation in itself about that. Fehi would not have got these opportunities had Kenny maybe been healthy. Sometimes it's about how you're going to use your players and what do they do now, the Hurricanes, because they've got some options. Does it become impact off the bench for Kenny Naholo? And if he starts getting on a roll and he can do something a little bit special, what does that mean for their backline? So probably great timing for them because some guys have played some big minutes.
It's a good problem to have, Surly, to decide who to leave out as opposed to, oh, crikey, who do I put in that position?
Yeah, it is. And it's a problem that championship caliber teams have. And it's the envy of a lot of teams in the competition. But if you want to go the whole way, we know that depth is key. And these are the selection problems you want to have come the back end of the regular season. You want multiple guys in positions putting their hand up and saying that I deserve a start. And yeah, for me, Kenny was the Fehi of last year, right? He was the one getting the All Blacks bolter chat potentially after how strong he was last season. And it was devastating to see him go down with that injury. But at the same time, it was so good to see him come back, score a double on the weekend, and look just as destructive as we know we can be. So, yeah, a problem, but a great problem to have, and one that I'm sure plenty of coaches in this competition will be a little envious of.
Jeff, I can tell you that Fehi Fineanganofo was paying $1.42 to score a try against Moana, Pasifika, and I can tell you he was very, very popular with punters, certainly same-game multi-punters. So, unfortunately for them, he was unsuccessful. On the other hand, Josh Morby was paying $7.75 to score a hat-trick against Moana, Pasifika, and there are a few that jumped on there, but prior to the game, if you're looking at those odds, would you have had Fehi in your numbers as opposed to Morby?
Oh, I definitely would have. It's just common sense, So was the TAB smiling, or were they in the was it in the balance, or $7 is pretty generous, But in saying that, there's not that many hat tricks that get scored in Super Rugby. So,
but you say that, but if you look back, Fehi scored 2 this season so far.
True.
Morby got 1. There was another one over the weekend, I think, as well. I think it's slightly more. It's occurring slightly more than probably seasons gone by.
Is that why Pity's not here? Budget cuts. Because you guys had to pay out too much on the Josh Morby hat trick, so he's been first gone.
Oh, geez. As you said, he's knocking on doors looking for players. Righty-ho. Let's have a look back on the results of last week. And the first game up was under the roof down there in Christchurch. And most punters thought this would be a close encounter. In the end, the Crusaders came out on top 36-20 against the Blues. Surly, your take on the game?
I thought the Crusaders were good. I thought the Blues were really disappointing, and I thought some key players from them didn't perform, and I thought the Crusaders were by far the better team, but a loss that the Blues would be pretty keen to rectify this weekend, I would say, because I expected this one to be a lot closer, and I thought the Blues were going to front a little more than they did, but I thought they got dominated in multiple aspects across the park, and I thought, unfortunately, Stephen Perofeta had a pretty rough day. I was quite surprised. Was that a premeditated substitution? Because I think going on performance during the game, I thought Zahn might have stayed on Bodie to 10. That seemed to me like one they decided they were going to make before the game, just because he had a few uncharacteristic errors, Perofeta, and I think at times they gifted opportunities back to a Crusaders side that was operating pretty nicely.
Jeff, did the Blues make the right change there?
It was definitely one at the time. I thought, I was interested in it, but if you're going to have to start playing footy, which is what they were going to have to do, you're probably trying to find your distributing players. But look, I think this is if you're talking about confidence coming out of the game, the Blues would have really taken a hit here because, they had a massive opportunity with 8-9 minutes to go. They had the Crusaders down to 13 men. and they literally couldn't pass the ball to each other with any cohesion or any patience or accuracy. And, when you get an opposition down to 13, all you really need to do is to be able to move the ball from side to side, because teams don't bring defensive line speed because they're just pushing hard to try and cover the spaces. The Blues just keep running into each other. There was no understanding of structure, how they would do it. And I think that's an indication of their season. Haven't played any rugby all year. They've kicked the ball a lot. And then when they've needed to try and play, when you're behind on the scoreboard, you're just not good enough to do it. So I think there's some real frustration inside this group. Dalton Papali'i looks as though he's going to be out now with a broken jaw. He could be done. Look, what they do this week will be very, very interesting. Regardless of that substitution, the Blues were leading at halftime 13-12, and they missed a massive opportunity. And they actually conceded a try there when they were down to 13 men. The Crusaders were down to 13 men. So to me, I think the Blues are stumbling their way towards the playoffs, and they've got to discover something. And I don't even know what that is. I literally don't know. You can't change your game plan. They're trying to. It's almost like silly. They're running we're going to kick and D our way to a title again, which they did a couple of years ago.
That's the thing.
And it's not going to work.
Yeah, they're trying to play that method that worked for them a couple of years back, and whether it's personnel or just that the game has moved on and other teams have got better, right? If you aimlessly kick the ball now to so many of these back threes in the competition, they're going to make you pay. And yeah, it worked a couple of years back. That 4-pack was so dominant, and as long as the ball was put in the right areas, they would just dominate there. But it's not happening this year, and they have the attacking players to be able to do it. That's the frustrating thing. Like when you look across I thought Caleb Clark was really good. I thought Sam Knock performed really well too. They have some X factor there.
Oh no, I'm gonna push back there. I mean, Sam Knock, he fumbled that ball that led to their first try. Certainly didn't run at all on attack. His kicking game's good. I don't doubt his energy. Caleb Clark, though, to me, had a couple of opportunities to have a go and decided to try and kick the ball. I'm literally going to lose my shit, I'd say, in the next 3 or 4 weeks. If these wings who have 30 to 40 metres of space in front of them, and then they decide to play a territory game. Macca Springer did it twice in the game where they created an opportunity for him to run him. The first thing he thought about was, I'm just going to kick it down to the other end of the field, rather than, if I run here and literally beat one man, we could possibly score a try, And so when you watch your Caleb Tangatau's of the world have a crack at it, he did one kick, but it ended up being a 50-22, and it could have stayed in, he could have scored. But the instinct of these players are starting to break me. Even when AJ Lamb scored his try, the length of the field, when Knock got it, you could tell he thought about kicking it.
Oh, yeah.
It was a turnover. He went, no, I'll pass it. They go 80 metres and score, 85 metres and score. And if we don't start showing a little bit of backing ourselves to beat people, I can tell you for a fact, other wings around the world aren't doing that.
Yeah. Do you think it's a coaching thing, though? Do you think it's analytics and they're being told to do this stuff? Because the guys we're talking about, when they first came onto the scene, they were X Factor.
They were run first.
Run first. And I think the Hurricanes are still run first mentality. I think they're the one team that's been given the message, if you have space to run, you run first. And the kick is the secondary option. I think, here's the crazy thing. This whole, we've got to play in the right parts of the field. We've got to win the territory battle. That's, I think, ingrained in these players now. But other than hold on. And if I'm a winger, I go, I'm probably going to get the ball 4 times in the game. If I've got a chance to run, I should run. And that to me is, like I said, I'm going to lose my proverbial pretty quickly if they're going to carry on. And you're not making my team in the All Blacks if that's your attitude, because the ball is precious and opportunities are few and far between.
Some of the players would be between a rock and a hard place, Jeff, because if they're being told by their provincial coach or by their franchise coach to kick first, that's the game plan, kick it down for territory. And then the All Black selector is looking, or Dave Rennie's looking and thinking, no, I want a player who's going to take the game on, and when an opportunity presents itself, or a half opportunity, for him to actually have a go. It's they either follow the team or the directions that they're getting, or is it just something that they're doing instinctively now?
I think it's because it's been hammered so much about being told that they need to play in the right part of the field. They're doing it instinctively rather than going, you know what, I'm paid here to run fast and I've got the ability to beat someone and I've got space. And, most of them will get well and truly in the opposition territory and you can play from there. You don't need to, the number of times you'll kick long and guess what happens? The cover comes across, they pick it up and they kick it back out and halfway. And now you're going to a contestable line-out that you're throwing into when you literally 30 seconds ago had the ball in your hands with space to run at. That's shit coaching. I don't care what anyone says. That's rubbish. If they're telling them to do that when they've got space in front of them, then they shouldn't be coaching at that level.
There we go. Well, I'll tell you what, Jeff, what was his the law that he would introduce? Outlaw the box kick. So, and I
So here's the thing, and this is one of my strengths, is the fact that I have no problem if they chip kick it to regather. Like that, I mean, to me, there is actually that option in front of them. But what you generally do is you take the ball to the line and put it over the top of the defender that's coming forward. Now that, to me, absolutely no problem because it's a contestable, it's a chance to get it back. And I back myself to get it back 9 times out of 10. These guys when they kick it, it just lands in the 22 about 20, 30 metres away from them. So, to me, there's no advantage in that. Particularly, I mean, a couple of times Darren Sullivan got it, and we know how big his boot is. He just picked it up and banged it back down the other end of the field. Like, man, none of that makes any sense to me.
Right. Let's move on to the next game. And the Chiefs travelled across the Tasman to take on the Reds. They came out on top off the bye. This could have been a wee bit of a banana skin game for the Chiefs, but they came out on top. They got the points that they needed, Surly, and they're well entrenched inside that top 2, top 3.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty at times. It was pretty gritty. I thought the Chiefs' loose forwards were really good, and they had to match a good loose forward trio in the Reds. But I thought, in particular, Wallace Satiti really stood out, and it was great to see him have that type of performance at number 8. But yeah, I thought Talkiaho was really good. Josh Lord started the game well. Tupou Vati. It was those bigger names and those tough characters in the forward pack that kind of got them home in the end. It was hardly one that you sat down and was a riveting watch. It was a frustrating at times, but this is a big win for the Chiefs and one that you look back on at the end of the regular season and how you won almost doesn't matter. It's more that you won and you kept that potential home field advantage come finals time, because in a few weeks' time, no one's going to care how you got the job done. It's just that you banked the points, and beating the Reds, as the Reds have proven over the last few weeks, in particular in Queensland, isn't easy. So a good outcome in the end, probably not the way they wanted to go about getting the result, but I think you just banked the win.
You happy with just picking up the points as well? Jeff, the Chiefs now into second place, in behind the Hurricanes on the ladder.
This was an untidy game from everyone, including the referees and the TMO. It was all just it was all a bit rough. And I think there was clearly some frustration across the Tasman, and I think some of it rightfully so. When you miss opportunities or something doesn't get seen or it feels as though you haven't quite got the rub of the green, I don't think there was a huge amount in that, but by the same token, both teams just really were a bit messy, and it was a really scrappy sort of game. And sometimes those games sort of happen there in Brisbane, whether it's the humidity, the heat, or there's been a bit of rain around, whatever it might be. It just sort of ends up, there's a lot of turnovers, or whatever. And I think that does put pressure on referees when there's a lot of turnovers. There's a lot of drop ball, and whether it was sideways, forwards, backs, like that. I think it just made it a little bit frustrating for everyone to watch. Big one for the Chiefs, though, because they came out on top. Like you say, it keeps the pressure on the Hurricanes for the last 3 weeks.
Next game up, Surly, and it was a must-win for the Highlanders. And in the end, well, it looked like it was going to be comfortable, but they certainly tried to make it interesting towards the end. But the Highlanders got the points, and it means that they're still in touch. They're going to need a big finish to the season, though. They're just outside the 6. and they're 3 points behind the Reds, who are in that sixth position, but the Reds have a game in hand. So the Highlanders, well, they keep their season alive.
They do. They've got the Chiefs and the Canes coming up, and they are going to have to be a whole lot better. So, look, Jeff's beating his chest. They keep their season alive. After 21 minutes, if you asked me if they could compete with either of those two teams, I would have said yes. But at the 80-minute mark, I am probably going to say no. I thought they were going to kick on and put a Waratahs side away that can often look pretty good and then can often look pretty hopeless. And geez, the start to the game, it was all the Landers, wasn't it? I think Tangitau is the main talking point. It's just such a pleasure to watch. But yeah, I guess the Highlanders, again, much like the Chiefs, got what they needed out of that game. It wasn't pretty. It got very interesting at the end there. Red card to Jonah Nariki certainly didn't help. But yeah, Tangitau for me was the main talking point from this one. He is such a fun player to watch. And just never looks tackled, never looks stopped. His ability post-contact to punish defenders for not putting him on the deck is second to none. And he is, as Jeff alluded to before, one of those guys when he gets ball in hand, his first instinct is run, and it is run until I'm on the ground and a ruck is formed over the top of me, which is so refreshing to see.
Yeah, Jeff, although you did say, did he get a 50-20?
Yeah.
As well, which just goes to show the wide range of skills that he has, but he is one of those players who can bounce out of tackles almost at will, it seems, and make another few yards. So he's certainly putting his hand up in terms of All Black selection once we get to the first test of the season.
I'll be shocked if he's not involved in some way, shape or form. I mean, whether or not he's starting with it, he should get an opportunity in those 3 test matches to put on the black jersey on what he's doing. The hard part is, if the Highlanders don't manage to sneak in, then all of a sudden that's out of sight, out of mind, because he won't be playing in the playoffs. And so other guys will get their chance to put their hand up in a different setting, which is a playoff game. And you can impress in those games pretty quickly. I tell you who was very lucky in this game was Damon Murphy, the referee, and the TMO, because had the Highlanders not won, there would have been uproar. The red card upgrade was a disgrace. That's been a yellow card all season. Those contacts, and all of a sudden out of the blue for it to become a red. And Timothy Tavatava Nawai's yellow in the first half, when the Highlanders were in complete control of the game, was absurd as well. First penalty against the Highlanders, they had plenty of numbers back in support. Andy was legal initially after he made the tackle. To deem that a professional foul was really concerning. I think there's been a bit said about the weekend. Things need to tidy up in the next 3 weeks for me in terms of the officiating, just so to make sure everyone is clear what to expect when you get into the knockout games, because I think it was a bit rough. But in regards to the Highlanders, we're alive, baby, and that's all it was about. Was giving yourself a chance in the last 2 games. They've done that. It's a long shot, but they've given themselves a shot, and that's what they needed to do.
Yes, I can tell you how much of a long shot it is. The bookies currently have the Highlanders at $101 to win Super Rugby Pacific 2026.
But
so
it should be 101 to get into the playoffs. I thought you were going to say to make the playoffs.
I had a feeling you were going to come up with something like that.
Wow.
If you sell all those books in the background, Jeff, you could make a killing if you chucked it all on the Landers.
Man, my Lord. What's going on?
Right. Next game, and it was up your side. In fact, not too far from your place, I would think, Surly. Moana Pasifika taking on the Hurricanes. In the end, it was a one-sided affair. What was very, very interesting about this game was that the bookies opened up the Hurricanes as 36.5-point favourites prior to the teams being named. And then the weight of money that they received on Moana Pasifika plus 36.5 forced them to move the line. And then when the teams were named, that moved again. I think when I looked at the line on Thursday night, Friday morning, it was down to about 29.5, 28.5. So there was a window there for you, Jeff, to take Moana Pasifika plus 36.5, take the Hurricanes minus 29.5, and find yourself a nice little middle. Absolutely perfect for those punters who like to bet both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And Look, I thought the Hurricanes were good, and they continued to try and play in difficult conditions, and we still saw some great skill sets, and Moana, they're hanging in there. That's all you probably can say about them right now. Look, it's uncertain times, and I think every week we're seeing plenty of hearts and plenty of spirits, but realistically they're just outmatched and overpowered by teams, and I think the rain might have helped us a little bit for them. Just made it a little bit harder to do some of the things that would put them under a little bit more pressure. So look, it's it's building up, the plus minus, the points for and against. It's getting hard for Moana Pasifika, and this was just about the other Hurricanes who got their opportunity to go out and do it. They did it well.
Yeah, surely not the top Hurricanes team out on the field, but they still put on a performance at times that, shows why they're the top of the table.
Yeah, they're deep, aren't they? And even guys like Rover and that had really good performances too. So they've got players ready to step up in multiple positions, and that's why they are the best team in the competition at the moment. To Moana's credit, I don't think they quit again, and they haven't all year, have they, despite being outclassed on multiple occasions. I thought Tuitama looked really good. He looks like an exciting player that I hope gets a contract overseas or something if Moana doesn't exist anymore. I thought Israel Leota had his moments. I thought Falatoi Penny had his moments as well, William Harville. So there's still a few positives in amongst there, but yeah, I'd say they'll be pretty happy to have the bye this week and then freshen up, ready for two big games. I got the Reds at home and then the Brumbies away. So yeah, if they could get one win out of those two somehow and upset either of those sides, I think that would be a nice finish to them for a tough year.
What is it they're missing? Because we quite often we talk a lot about their individuals. Like, there's a lot of really good players there. Like that's what I'm sort of struggling a little bit with, is that there's the like you say, Tuitama, Leota did some good things. William Harville to me is a really good Super Rugby player. Augustine Pulu, obviously Tupou Ta'ialoa's had a really good season. Miracle Failangi, like I sort of look at it and go, I really like some of the pieces. There's something, and whether or not it's just the fact the unknown is weighing on them and they're not going out there with any confidence, whether they're not sure how they want to play their style of football. But there's Vaihu's been, to me, he's been a really good that's what I'm saying. There's some skill sets here I really like. I'm just not sure why. Whether or not their midfield's servicing the outsides as well. And last year they made a lot of line breaks through the middle of the park, and obviously Artie was a big part of that, right? We get that. But most of these guys were around. A lot of these guys were around last year. I'm just not sure. There's something missing here, and I don't know what it is. I really don't, because I still see a lot of really good quality players out there who are on a strong journey as Super Rugby guys, and where they go and where they end up, I'll be very interested.
I think that would certainly play a part. The uncertainty of where they go after this season. Will Moana still be around? Is it definitely gone? Is it 100% gone? Will there be a last-minute saviour who enters the frame? That has to be playing on some of those players' minds. And I also think the fact that they just don't have the depth that other teams have. So they have been very, very close right up to halftime in a number of matches this season. And then that last sort of 20, 25 minutes of the game, they just start to fall away because they don't have the troops that they can come on and play the part at the level that's required, unfortunately. So, as you say, they have been brave all season and they've just been outgunned a number of times late in games. Final game of the round was the Brumbies, an all-Australian affair. Brumbies hosting the Force. The Brumbies came out on top 32-15. Shirley, were you impressed with the Brumbies or were you slightly disappointed with the Force?
I'm going to be honest, and this might shock no one. I only watched the highlights of this game. This was not one that I was going to bother tuning in for. I did have the Force on my multis, so I was gutted to see the scores back, but it looked like the Brumbies played pretty smart and just constantly put the Force under pressure and in the end ground them down. I did think the Force would keep this one a little bit closer, and it's harder to tell just from the highlights. Good to see your boy Tizano scored. It looked like Corey Toole was pretty dangerous on the wing. Lonergan, outstanding as well. But I was kind of waiting for the Brumbies to get back in the winner's circle, and they desperately needed this one. And it looked like, in the end, their four-pack kind of went to work. Valentini, pretty powerful on his carries, and they just had too much for the Force.
Jeff, your take on the game? The Brumbies back to their sort of what we've come to expect of them?
Yeah, they were better. I think there's an element, though, that this game, I think, with about 20 minutes to go, if Donaldson had kicked the conversion with 20 to go, it would have been 22-17. And, I'm interested in where it had gone to from there. Just by that, they'd sort of done a pretty good job of getting it close. And then in the last 20 minutes, they sort of just lost their way, the Force. So it looks comfortable on the final score, 32-15, and that suggests there was a big margin there sort of through the game. But there wasn't really. So for me, I think the Force will be really disappointed with this performance. And this is massive for the Brumbies. You look at what they've got left for the last. They've got 3 games to go. They've got 2 games to go, but the Tars away, and then they've got Moana Pasifika at home. They could sneak another 8, 9, 10 points, and that would change the context of where they might end up sitting in the playoffs, Crusaders have only got a couple of games left, and do you want, that there's some really interesting, scenarios. The Reds have got 3 games left. Can they, jump up? And theirs is the Force away, the Moana Pasifika away, and then they've got the Drua at home. So sort of 3 very, very, you'd say, winnable games. And that would put a spanner in the works of that 4th spot. The Blues, got to find a way to get a couple of points somehow or win a game. And there's a couple of derbies. So I just think the next couple of weeks, it's going to play out. It's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. So that's why I think the Brumbies was a massive win. Like, they could win their last 2 games and then they could get 9, 10 points. And it should be a scrap for who plays who where.
You've just gone through some of the games that are remaining, and the more that you were talking, the more I was coming around to your way of thinking, Jeff, thinking the Highlanders should be 101 just to make the playoffs.
That's the reality. The points that are on offer, you're right. I mean, the Highlanders have got to win their 2 games against 2 derby teams, and that still might not be enough because of the way the other games have been played out.
Yes, they might have to rely on other results as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, let's move on. And another question for you lads. And I know a few weeks ago, we put together our pick and go first All Black squad of the year, or the first team that we thought Dave Rennie would select. Now that we've had a few weeks to have a little more thought go into it and see just how certain number of players have progressed, I just want you to give me who you think Dave Rennie will name as his first All Black captain. Why don't we go to you first, Jeff?
No, let's go to Surly.
I'm happy for Jeff to take this one.
Oh, well, I'll go first.
You go.
It's already available.
I'm going to go Cody Taylor. I think Cody Taylor will be Dave Rennie's first All Black captain of the season. He has really started to step up his game for the Crusaders over the last month or so. I mean, he was playing at a very good level anyway. I've really enjoyed how he's been going. He's got the experience behind him, and I think he's got a certain amount of money within the All Black framework. So Cody Taylor, I think, will be the first All Black captain selected by Dave Rennie. Right. One of you guys can go now.
Oh, look, I'll go because I agree as the first All Black captain of the year. And I think he's got the potential to do it over the next 18 months. It just comes down to what Dave Rennie wants and what he's looking for. And I'll be interested to see if they finished top of the table, I think, in Japan, Kobe, didn't they? And so, there's going to be, highly likely they're going to go deep into the tournament. So when does Artie get back to New Zealand? And I think there's a lot to play out over the next sort of few weeks in terms of form and who's doing what. I just think I put a lot into loyalty. I've said this before. Cody Taylor's not gone anywhere. He's taken a sabbatical, a non-playing sabbatical, stayed in New Zealand. I think he's well respected within the group. I think he's always going to, for me, he's going to be a starter. He's got that class about him. He's got that competitiveness about him. And I think the players respect him. So for me, it's Cody. I know there's actually not that many suitors, from my perspective, of guys that, I would go that could handle the responsibility, because that's what it is, right, Surly? It's handling the responsibility. And, that's where I sit right now. And I haven't seen anything to convince me otherwise.
Surely.
I agree that there's not that many suitors. I think there's two names, and they've both been mentioned. It's Cody or it's Artie, and it's whether Artie is available. For me, I want the captain that we pick now to be the captain at the Rugby World Cup, and for that reason, I would probably go with Artie, just because I think he should be our captain at the World Cup, but that's just a personal opinion. I've wanted him to be captain for a long time, and I'm not going to change on that. But in saying that, Cody Taylor is the other name that is the guy that could put his hand up and do it, and deserves that honour to do it, and it won't affect his game. He's got the leadership already, and he is good to go. I don't see any backs that could do it that are 100% guaranteed starters. Someone like a Geordie is probably the nearest one out of the backline, right? Because who's going to say that a Bodie or someone is a guaranteed starter? There's not many of those backs that are 100%. Like Cam Roigard is, right? But he's not in the captaincy position at the moment, you wouldn't think. So, yeah, to me it's a two-horse race between those two. And I'd personally go with Artie, but I won't complain if it's Cody Taylor.
Question for Jeff. Were you ever All Black captain?
No. No, I was
Never.
vice captain. I was vice captain a few times and towards the end. But once again, it was never really a conversation around backs. Backs never had been All Black captain, other than Stu Wilson. I think captained the All Blacks in the 80s for a couple of games, and
From the wing.
From the wing, yeah. Look, I think it's something I'm not sure inside a team. Look, let's be honest. We know the forwards are the heart and soul. Let's be honest about it. They are. They are the heart and soul of the rugby team. I don't care what anyone says. I'm having this discussion about it this morning. If you go and watch what forwards put themselves through, particularly even type 5 forwards, and loose forwards, we've had some of our greatest players, Kieran Reid and obviously Richard McCaw and those guys. You watch the physical, that to me, it gives a different level of respect. It does. The what you're putting yourself through, and hence, you watch the dedication that the likes of a Cody Taylor and Artie Savia and Sam Cane, they have for the game, right? And what they've put themselves through. For me, I'm always of the opinion, for a back to ask a forward to do that stuff, it doesn't sit. Look, don't get me wrong. It's not these guys don't have leadership attributes. They clearly do, and a big role to play. But if I'm going to follow someone, they've got to be it's the people I believe in the heart of the battle, and that's up front. They're the ones that, who they come off with cuts everywhere. They're putting their head in the dark places. They're scrapping their way through 80 minutes of pure hell at some points, and so for me, that's why I believe they should have that responsibility. And so not only am I leading them in terms of what they say, but I'm following them on what they're prepared to sacrifice for the jersey, and that's generally their body.
I think you have to factor in too that certain players won't want the captaincy. I think that it can put you in a position of scrutiny, right, if things don't go your way. So you have to be a certain type of player and a certain type of leader to want that role and that responsibility. And often it's the guys that want it are the best suited for it. But like throwing up names of people that potentially don't even want that role and aren't ready for that type of stuff. It's like straight away, look at what happened to Sam Cane, right? Heck of a player, but he copped so much from the New Zealand rugby public. And I thought he was a great captain, but you are straight away, it's coach and captain that cop it. They're the first point of call. Look at Scott Barrett as well. So it's a position that people want to have, and they want to be able have to handle that in terms of everything outside of the game as well, because that plays a big factor.
Tupou Vai is another one, though, that I would keep as a future All Black captain. Now, whether or not that's the right time, I'm not sure, but I look at him in the way that he really commands respect. He is playing outstanding rugby. He's a guy to me as well, could could lead the All Blacks in the future.
Is that new coach? Does he go with a completely new captain, someone who hasn't been in the framework, like a Tupou Va'i, Jeff?
Oh, look, I'm hearing news this morning that Graeme Henry's been brought as a selector, right? So I don't think they're going anywhere new. You've brought out Don Tricker. You're going back in time. You brought back Gilbert Anoka. I think that there's the formula that they've got. I think they're going to rely heavily on their experience. They know they're going to use that. There'll be some new talent that they'll want to have a look at. But no, I would be surprised if they take a risk in this regard. I think that they'll know that they want this captain to be able to drive it for the next 18 months, which is why we've narrowed it down in our heads to two guys, and Taylor and Artie. So yeah, but I find that fascinating, that news breaking around Sir Graeme Henry. I'm not surprised though. I thought having an independent's a really good idea. Can look things from a different lens. I wasn't sure it was going to be Sir Graeme Henry, but they've obviously had some conversations and might have been over a glass of red, and or maybe two or three, and they've agreed on the role. So that's I don't mind it. I quite like it.
Yeah, it's confirmed. It's as we're talking. The rumours were around, right, ever since this morning, and Dave Rennie's just spoken about it. He's done a press conference. So, yeah, it's locked in. So, interesting one.
Jeff, were you ever part of an All Black team when Gilbert Anoka was around?
Yep. And this was in the early days, and he's going to have an immediate impact. It's going to be really interesting how the guys who have experienced Bert before respond to him coming back in, and what it is that he's really going to be driving early on, that he thinks is going to make a difference. And look, from what I observed later as a broadcaster and being in and around versus what I saw from Bert when I was a player, very, very different, completely different. Like, he evolved over time and became great at what he did, and he was good when he started with, and the other side of it too is some players need that more than others. I wasn't necessarily someone who needed that type of guidance and leadership. More than happy for what he did and understood why he did it. But they got themselves into a pretty special place for a while, and I don't know how quickly he could do that, but I do like the fact he's coming in. Like this, New Zealand Rugby right now, I think it's got they've written down a brief, they've got a plan, and whether it pays off or not, we will see when we probably come up against the Springboks in a quarter-final at a Rugby World Cup. But they've definitely brought in some people who have been there and done it before.
Just on that, you say, he'll have a greater effect on some players as opposed to others. Do you think that he recognises when he initially talks to each player, he recognises that this player is going to get a lot more out of me as opposed to that player?
Yeah, that is one of his great strengths. But I would say this, is when we had that remarkable team, sort of through 09 through to 17, somewhere around there, 10 to 17, was it? So that was probably that era.
Yep. In between,
what they've done incredibly well in that group, and this is what they told me at the time he observed it, is that all of the different management had relationships with different players. So they were he wasn't with everybody. It was, they had the whole team philosophy, but then the physio had relationships with 4 or 5 guys, the doctor with 4 or 5 guys, him with others, coaches with certain players. Like, knowing that the head coaches couldn't deal with everyone, they all had people that they worked out they were related with too, and who could have good conversations, and there was a massive respect amongst all of them. So I think, to me, that's one of his great strengths. You've touched on it there. Is he understands the individual pretty quickly and really well, and can work out what's best for them.
Right, let's get on to some proper rugby talk, and it's this weekend's games. We start in Hamilton, Friday night. The Chiefs up against the Highlanders, a must-win game for the Highlanders if they're to be any chance of playing in the postseason. The bookies don't give them too much of a chance here, Jeff, to be fair. Chiefs are $1.10. The Highlanders are $6.50. They are 17.5-point underdogs, the Highlanders. The game total is set at 57.5. We'll get to you soon, Surly. I want to give Jeff the first opportunity.
I want Jeff's reaction.
He's spiraling in his chair. He's doing turn. He's rocking. It's like he's rocking up and down. Like he's good. I can't. The 17.5's got me shaking. Like it's absurd, that line. Absolutely absurd. When a season is on the line and the Highlanders, yes, they've had some performances which, have been frustrating, but they certainly haven't had, as Jamie Joseph has said, the rub of the green this year in a number of things. 17.5 is far, far too much of the Chiefs should clearly be favourites. There's no doubt about it. But the Highlanders, they can be niggly for someone, and when you've got everything to play for, there'll be an element of desperation. So I'm down in Hamilton, and I expect a fired-up Highlanders team to throw everything at this Chiefs team and give them a real run. Absolutely.
Surly, do the Chiefs put Highlander fans out of their misery a couple of weeks short of the regular season?
Yeah, I think they beat them, for sure. I think that line is a little too high. Back in round 2, it was only 3 points, and obviously a lot has changed in the season since then. I just think this Chiefs 4-pack is going to be too good for this Highlanders 4-pack. So that's where I see the Chiefs having the advantage. But yeah, that is a big line. Weather's meant to be good, so there could be some points. Crowd always shows out in Hamilton. Home field advantage will be huge. And I think the Highlanders season does end on Friday night, unfortunately. But I think they'll put up a damn good fight, like they always do.
But Jeff, the Chiefs have won the last 8 meetings between these two teams.
But it's a new day. It's a new week where it's like, yeah, I know.
However, if you're a punter, 3 of the last 4 wins by the Chiefs have been by 17 or less. So I do agree that 17.5, that line just does look slightly too much. And if the Highlanders don't make the playoffs, then this will be one of the last chances that players in that Highlanders squad have to put their hand up and say, Dave, look at me. As we mentioned, Caleb Tangito was one that I expect him to have a huge game because
Dave Rennie's on site, so he's going to be in Hamilton. He's there. I think we're talking to him. Sky's talking to him in the build-up beforehand, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Ethan de Groot will want to make sure he has a big game. I think there'll be, some young fellas will go, just don't forget about me.
Tavanawa up against Pie. There's some big matchups there. Guys that are right on the fringe.
Jonah Nariki's another one. That sort of football. I'm interested to see if they persevere at 13. I've got a sense they might for this one. If he can get past the judicial red card thing he has to go through, which I'll tell you what, I will lose if anything happens there. Proverbial this week. So yeah, look, it's a tough ask. Look, the Chiefs should win this game, but I'm not ruling my Highlanders out.
I'll tell you what, I'll be watching because Jeff could explode this weekend.
Well, surely. The NBA's allowed Victor Wembanyama to play, so Super Rugby should allow Jonah Nariki to play to keep their season hopes alive. They're like for like, mate.
How good was that elbow? Oh, my goodness. He could
be an All Black lock, mate. He could be. Bucky's Botha would be jealous of that one.
Right. Next game, we move on to Saturday, and the Fijian Drua are back home. They host the Waratahs. The Drua $1.40 favourites here. The Waratahs $2.90 outsiders. They're 6.5-point faves. The Drua at home. The game total set at 52.5. Surely, which way are we looking here?
Drua, season on the line off the back of a bye in Fiji at home in Suva, but I still think they get the job done. I'm just checking the weather forecast as we speak. But regardless, she is steaming down on Saturday. You got to love that. 27 degrees, pouring, 81% humidity. Get on the Drua.
You also getting on the boys at home, Jeff?
Yeah, I am. But there was some things that, I know the Waratahs had a really disappointing season, but at least they try and play some rugby. like you watch them play, they do try and shift the ball from side to side, and they actually do score some really nice tries. Their defence is atrocious, like it really is, and more so the fact that the moment they score a try, it's like they forget that they have to keep playing. They'll score points and then they'll concede points. Same thing though, they've got 3 games left, and they've got some games that they can win. And so, do I think they're an outside chance? They're an outside chance. The Waratahs, they've won one less game than the Drua, and are a point ahead of them. So I sort of look at this and go, the Drua once again at home should be too tough, but I'm not without the Waratahs. It's like this is the round where everything's on the line for a lot of teams, right? To keep you alive, like it was for the Highlanders last week. It is for both the Waratahs and the Drua to give yourself an outside chance of chasing down one of those teams, whether it be the Reds or funny enough, the Crusaders have only got 2 games left.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, they're at home though for both of them, but it's the Chiefs and the Hurricanes. Oh, they've actually still got to pick up a point or 2 as well. So
They should have Will Jordan back, right?
should do, but those other 2 teams are the top 2 teams in the comp.
True.
And they'll be under the roof and looking forward to playing there,
The Drua have won the last 2 games in Fiji against the Waratahs. In fact, the last 5 games between these 2 teams, the home team has won. So It's been a big factor when it comes to clashes between these 2. And I can understand why the bookies have made the Drua quite warm favourites. Next game, big matchup up in Auckland. And I don't think it would have been too many times where the Hurricanes would have been favourites at Eden Park taking on the Blues, but this is what we've got. The Blues are $2.35. Hurricanes $1.57. They're 4.5-point favourites, the Hurricanes up there in Auckland, and the game total is set at 57.5. Surely, do the Hurricanes just continue on their way?
I think so. I think I know what to expect from this Hurricanes side more than I know what to expect from the Blues side in terms of the style of rugby and the positivity. I think they have more points in them, so I think they'll come away with a win. I'm keen to see how they look without Roygaard. Obviously, this is a big game, and not to have their 9 there that does so much of the playmaking and creativity for them is going to hurt, but I still think, as we've mentioned, they've got the depth in the squad to be too good. So, yeah, I will back the Canes to get the job done here. Reasonably comfortable. I think the Blues will put up a fight for sure at home, but I think it could be in that 10 to 20 point margin.
Jeff, are you also going with the Canes?
I'm contemplating an upset here.
Wow.
There's no Roygaard and no Love, right?
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you would imagine that Bowden Barrett has a game.
Is Love out as well?
Is he still out? Or is he back for this?
I think he's a question mark.
He's a question mark.
Well, that changes that for sure.
Yeah, if he's not playing at 10, I give the Blues a shot here. I really do. Look, there's some things. Funny enough, if you watch the Blues plays last weekend, they scored a nice try just before half time where they had AJ Lamb and Peter Archie both carry the ball, and then they worked the same way and they got good go forward. And what they're not doing, the Blues at the moment, is they're running into brick walls trying to outmuscle teams. Where I think whether Xavier Taili's playing or if they use their backs. And rather than just trying to do everything with their forwards, get Caleb Clark involved in the game. Zahn Sullivan as well from the back. I imagine I'll see him there. I think they're a shot if there's no Love. I really do. So that would be. I would wait to see teams come out, and if there's no, here you go. If there's no Ruben Love, I think we could see an upset. I think this is a. That we know Dalton Popper-Lee, but Segan has been awesome. He's playing such good rugby. And at some point, same thing. I need to see something just once from Hoskins Tutu in 2026 because he's going through the motions, So that's an upset this week. It's the Blues are at home. They know they need something. They need at least 1 or 2 points or something to come out of the next couple of weeks. So the Blues are a shot here.
Right.
The
Blues.
market will move massively, though, right? If Love's out as well.
Yeah, I would have thought
Yeah.
so.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah. And the Blues have won 6 of the last 10 between these two, and 8 of those 10 games have been decided by 12 points or less, which I think usually tweaks Early's attention with the old, I'll take either team to win by either 12 and under or 7 and under if
7
you really
under. Yeah, that's not a bad one, eh? That we range.
Yeah. Right, the final game of the round? Final game of the round. The Force up against the Reds. Force at home, they're $2.05. The Force to beat the Reds, who are $1.72. That means that the Force are 1.5 point underdogs, and the game total is set at 55.5. Where do we go here, Jeff? A very, very tough one to call.
Force. I've got Force at home. I have. I don't think the Reds travel as well. They're good at home. I think the Force are a different team, and like I say, they were in the contest against the Brumbies at the 60-minute mark, and they'll be better for that and understanding once again. Same thing, same scenario. Their season is on the line, so I like the squad they've got. I like the way that they tend to play, and I think they'll bounce back from last week and get an all-important win.
Surely, I'd like to put a wee bit of balance into Jeff's comments. The Force have won 2 of the last 10 games between these two sides. Reds have dominated them.
Yep, different year. And that doesn't matter. We've heard it once before in this podcast when it comes to stats, and I'm going to double down here. I love getting on the Force for an upset. Done it for the majority of the year this year, and every so often they come good for me, and this is one where I think they could. They smoked the Reds in Brisbane, a month ago now, put 42 on them and dominated. I don't think it'll be as emphatic, but I do think they will get the win. So I'm going to back them in at home at good odds, I reckon. $2.05? I'll take that.
$2.05. Yeah, and I apologise. The Force have won 3 of the last 10 between these two teams.
Because you didn't calculate that one in, did you?
Including earlier this year in Queensland, where they pumped the Reds 42-19. So maybe you are getting some value there, Surly. $2.05 on the Force at home against the Reds, right? One more question, and it's probably just focused on Jeff, to be fair. Will the Highlanders be the only New Zealand team to not make the playoffs?
Well, I'd like to say no.
So you're thinking another New Zealand team will drop out, or?
No, I'm not picking that. I'm not picking that. Look, I think the Highlanders will look at the season and they'll be disappointed that they haven't just managed to, that I think they understand where their squad is. There's just been a couple of games, very winnable games, particularly the one at home against the Brumbies. Had they picked that one up, they'd be in the hunt, last year they lost a lot of games. I think 5 games with less than 7 points. They just haven't done enough here. So that is probable, and I'll be disappointed, but optimistic about what's to come next year with the squad that they'll be able to assemble, the players who are moving there, guys coming back from injury. So, but Frizzell's coming back as well. Shannon Frizzell's coming back. And Pledger will return from injury. And there's a big guy who used to play lock for them last year who was an All Black and was really good, Fabian Holland, who I chatted to last week, and his recovery is going really, really well. So you throw those men in the mix with what they've got there and the developing of talent, the likes of Casey and that. Nareki will still be around. So Tangatau, they're going to be dangerous next year, but it's going to be a big ask to find a way this season. So, if they pick up another win and end up with 6 and 8, they'll be disappointed, but probably an indication of where they're at depth-wise across their squad. So it's a no. But I don't like saying that, Surly, because it hurts.
Is the Cam Miller to the Blues chat real?
What's that?
Is the Cam Miller to the Blues rumours real?
I would say that's a high probability. I mean, that's where there's smoke, there's fire around that. I'm not sure whether it's been confirmed about that. I think there's probably another couple of players. They are, and Jamie indicated that they're losing their midfielders, Jonah Lowe and Tanielu Talia. Doesn't sound as though they'll be back next year. So that's why Nareki played there last weekend, and maybe a look to next year about what they're looking for. So to be fair though, everyone in New Zealand's scrapping over the same players. So and I think if Cam Miller does go to the Blues, it's a great opportunity. To be behind Beauden Barrett for a season and see what he does from there. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of change over the next 12 months with squads.
Right. Time to do some punting. But before we put our money down this week, let's look back at last week. And it's going to be a very, very quick look back to last week. Head-to-head. I was the only one who had a winner in the head-to-head market. That was the Crusaders at $1.67. Surly had the Force. Pity had the Reds. And Steve had the Waratahs. No good. At the line or point start, once again, I was the only one who picked a winner.
Did you say Steve had the Waratahs?
Yeah, I saw your face there.
I'm going to text him right now. What's up with that?
Yeah, you let me know what his reply is. I had the Waratahs plus 6.5. Bang, came in. Surly had the Reds plus 7.5. Almost, but not quite. Pity had the Horse plus 6.5. And Steve had the Hurricanes minus 33.5. He lost by half a point.
That serves him right for picking the Waratahs.
Winning team in margin. Once again, I was the only successful punter. Highlanders to win by 1-12 at $2.65. Surly had the Blues to win by 1-12 at $3.25. Oh. Pity had the Crusaders to win by 1-12 at $2.75. And Steve had the Force to win by 1-12 at $4.10. So let's move on to this week.
Yeah,
why don't we start with Jeff, seeing as he wasn't here last week. Jeff, you've got the board, your best head-to-head for this week in Super Rugby.
Best head-to-head, I think, is probably I'm going to go the Drua.
$1.40. Yep. Nice.
I'm going to ignore the famous saying, and I'm going to go back to the Force.
Yeah, well, I knew you were going to, so that's why I went to Drua.
Thanks, Jeff.
Force at $2.05. And I will go, oh no, Canes fans won't want to do this. I'm going to go Hurricanes at $1.57 to beat the Blues. Right, Jeff, your best point start or line?
Oh, it's the Highlanders one. That's absurd.
Highlanders plus 17.5. Yes, I do like the look of that one, to be fair.
Yeah.
Shirley?
This Ruben Love chat's got me rattled. I'm thinking, is there an opportunity here to get on the Blues on the point start? Because I'd expect them to win without Love and Roygaard.
Oh, gee. Yeah.
So I will do that. Why not?
You're going to take the Blues?
Yep.
Plus 4.5.
Yep.
Blues plus 4.5. I think I'll go with, I wanted to take the Highlanders plus 17.5, but I'll leave that with Jeff. I'll go with the Force plus 1.5. There we go. Your best anytime try scorer, Jeff. And, of course, teams have not been named yet.
I'm going to go Caleb Tangatau this week.
Damn, I was going to go with Caleb too.
You can go first. You can go first if you really wanted it.
No, well, I'm going to double down. I'm going to steal his backup option. I'm going to take Tizano.
Oh, Tizano. I've got to go somewhere else. I can't believe those were the two try scorers I actually wanted.
Go Fehi.
Yeah, Fehi to bounce back. Fehi to score a try against the Blues. There we go. Your best winning team in margin, Jeff?
Force 1-12.
Force 1-12, which is
340.
340. No, 335. Which one are you looking at?
Good odds.
Oh, I see. you've taken it with the draw option included. Right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Force 1 to 12 at $3.40 for Jeff. Surly.
Blues 1 to 12. I know I said the Hurricanes would win by 10 to 20 points, but now this Ruben Love thing, I love opportunities for value pre-team naming.
Blues 1 to 12 at $3.75. I'm going to go with Chiefs 1 to 12. And that is paying $3.60. I think the Highlanders will put up a fight, but in the end, I think the Chiefs might just be a little too strong for them.
Oh,
Okay, Jeff, your best bet for our best bet bundle. We'll put them all together.
Oh, I think it's. I'm going to go the draw. Oh, no, actually, no. I'll go the Highlanders plus 17 and that.
Highlanders plus 17.5.
Yeah, that's my best bet.
Yeah, give me the Force.
Force at $2.05. And I'll take. I'll just go the Druid to win at $1.40. Boom, we're done. We've made it through another episode. Jeff, obviously, you said you were going to be down in Hamilton for the big game this Friday night. Have you got another assignment this weekend?
No, just the one, actually. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to enjoying the rest of the weekend. But, yeah, Friday night's going to be a cracker. Absolute cracker. Just when you see Perry, say hi to him for me. If he just comes in just after we go off here, just let him know I was just interested to see how he's going.
I will pass on your regards, Jeff. Yeah. You're not heading out on the course this weekend then?
Not this weekend, but I might sneak out tomorrow. I think that's my midweek Wednesday, so that'll be the plan.
Nice. Beauty. Surly, you'll be... I know where you're going to be.
Yeah, I'll be bumping into you, unfortunately, which isn't how I like to spend my weekends, but hey, it is what it is. We will both be at Magic Round, won't we?
Oh, are you both going across?
We'll be
separately, but yeah, we're going.
Oh, how good. The whole few days?
I am just Saturday, Sunday, back Monday, poorly as I think, the whole thing.
I'm heading over Thursday, back Monday. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I have a great time, guys. It looks as though it's going to be fantastic. Like, they've sold out, right? It's just chock 120 odd thousand or something tickets sold or something like that. Man, that's mint.
Caxton Street will be absolute carnage, and surely Brisbane is not big enough for you to hide from me, so I will find you.
Yeah, hopefully the cameras aren't rolling when you do. Yeah.
I thought you guys had that Find My thing on your phone where you just find each other. You just
I had to get rid of my phone. He was stalking me. I had to turn it off.
Right. I'm just hoping that Magic Round is every bit as successful as Super Round was down in Christchurch, and I'm hoping that we see another Super Round down in Christchurch next season, because they certainly put on a show. Right. That's it for another week here on the Pick and Go. Thanks to Jeff and to Surly for both joining me. Thanks to Pity for trying to join me. And thanks to everyone out there for tuning in and watching or listening. We'll be back again next week with another edition of the Pick and Go.